I want to start with a short anecdote that I find very interesting, that I share often. At the conclusion of the Soviet Union, the Soviet Politburo got together and said, now that we're moving out of this phase of our history, how will people's energy routines change? How will their the traditions that they have with energy change? Because as you know, up to the end of the Soviet Union, energy was free for everyone, right? So there's no charge for energy. So when people have to pay for something, how will things change? So they sent a few people to a random house that they found in central Moscow, and that ended up being an elderly woman's house, and they said, we're going to spend a day with you, and all you need to do is just go about your day and let us observe what you're going to do. And she said, okay, fine, no problem, great. So they come up in the morning, and she wakes up, and they're sitting there with their notepads, taking notes on what she's doing. And she wakes up, and then she goes to the stove, and she turns on a gas burner. She begins to heat some water to make tea for the day, for breakfast. She concludes in her tea-making process, puts some eggs on the stove, makes eggs. And ultimately, she finishes making breakfast. But the stove continues to burn. She has her breakfast, she goes down, reads a book, listens to the radio. A couple hours later, it's lunchtime. She realizes she needs some things. She leaves the house, goes somewhere else, goes to the bazaar or whatever, gets some things for lunch, comes back with them, cooks lunch on the stove, which has been burning since the morning. A couple hours later, she wants coffee. She makes coffee. I assume this part is ad-libbed. I'm not sure if it's coffee or tea again. And then dinner, you get the gist. And ultimately, and I missed the beginning, when she obviously, in the morning, when she begins lighting the stove, she lights a match to light the gas. And almost when it's bedtime, she's now had her third or fourth tea for the day. She's had breakfast, lunch, or dinner. She blows out she shuts off the gas stove, and she's about to go to bed. And then the bureaucrats there watching her are going to bid her a good night and say, we're leaving, thank you for allowing us to watch you for the entire day. And they say, we have one question though, the entire day the gas burner never shut off. You left it on the entire day, why is that? And she says, well, matches are so expensive these days that I didn't want to spend more than one match, obviously. So the point here is that at that point there was a transition from a country where natural gas was free, where energy in general was free, to something where now there was a cost to this type of energy. And we are in a similar transition now. With the advent of AI and other technologies, despite slowing demographic population increases and sometimes decreases in many of our European neighbor countries, we see an increase in energy use. So if I can go to go to the slide here, I'll briefly introduce EPİAŞ. EPİAŞ is the energy market of Istanbul, the energy exchange of Turkey, rather. We are now evolving into becoming the energy and minerals exchange. And I'll get to that in a second. We are essentially the market where prices for natural gas, electricity, petroleum, and minerals will be priced in the very near future. So our topic is, will Turkey become an energy hub? Well, I will argue that Turkey is already de facto an energy hub in many aspects and will continue to be. The part that's maybe missing is the pricing of energy instruments here in Turkey, and that's something we at the Energy Exchange of Istanbul hope to do as EPİAŞ. This graph on the left is the installed capacity for energy. This is a unique graph in many parts, relative to many parts of the world. As you can see, the top point, I'm not sure how clear it is from afar, I apologize for that. Solar is yellow, and I believe wind is green there. They have been introduced. Almost 60% of Turkey's installed capacity is now renewable energy, which is a very important aspect of Turkey's goals in the near future. And with this increase in use of energy, and we'll get to that, consumption of energy, we are looking at ways to increase both production and, more importantly, and most importantly for everyone, transmission. Because the whole green energy revolution does not exist without transmission, meaning the places where you produce electricity need to be close to where you use electricity, or you have to find a way to get them from point A to point B, and that's transmission. Turkey is important in many aspects, most notably because there's so much energy east of us, but not so much west of us. So much of this energy is transmitted through Turkey, which is important. Here are the import and export graphs. As you can see, the little map on the bottom shows Turkey's neighbors and where electricity goes. I'm not sure if that's clear from where you're sitting necessarily. But import and export quantities, trade with neighboring partners is on the rise. Turkey itself is now producing energy in the form of natural gas off of the Black Sea, which is going very well and is increasing. Hopefully Turkey will be able to produce almost 10% of its own natural gas production in the very near future, which is a major step. So in this respect, Turkey is already an energy hub. This is a slide that I stole from the Minister of Energy's presentation just a couple days ago, in which he announced, and which I think the Chamber of Commerce, the American Chamber of Commerce and all other chambers of commerce might be interested in, because there will be a $100 billion investment in the coming years, 28 billion alone in transmission. So if you are interested in energy, in the energy sector, this green energy from solar panels, from wind, from hydro, needs to be transported to wherever it's being used and on to Europe. This is data that I think you'll find interesting and important if it's one of your goals to get in the sector and make money. This is natural gas consumption in Turkey, as you can see, and natural gas production. Production at the bottom has spiked in 2023 and will continue to increase. This is as important for Turkey's financial future as anything that the ministries of finance are doing, because if Turkey is energy independent, then suddenly the current account deficit disappears, right? So if there's no import of electricity or gas necessarily, or oil, suddenly Turkey is no longer a net deficit country in terms of current account, and that yields so many open doors for so many things, and it allows for many opportunities for many companies that are here today. This is natural gas imports, and the sources are listed as well. Total import quantities are down, as you can see in the bottom left graph chart, because of our production of local natural gas. And Turkey has many neighbors, which you can see listed there, and does help to transmit natural gas and electricity to many of these neighbors. Even neighbors that aren't neighbors, they don't have borders with Turkey. And we felt this during the Russian-Ukraine crisis, and Turkey was providing natural gas to many of these countries who were stuck. So our neighbors to the east are using Turkey as a conduit for Western exports, and Turkey is very much interested in helping them and potentially, ultimately exporting our own natural gas production. And here are the share of export destinations. You can see there the organizers of this conference that I forgot to thank. I'll thank them now. The American Chamber of Commerce, both of Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, are listed here. I mean, the countries are listed there, as you can see. Many of these are export destinations of this natural gas. And so there is a working relationship now, and how we'll improve that relationship will be for us to see in the near future. I want to leave with a few data points you might find interesting. 20,000 kilometers of transmission pipelines. This number is increasing significantly daily. You see the entry capacity. All those numbers are increasing, both storage here in Turkey, as well as transmission ability and capability of Turkey to its neighbors. Because if we're serious about the green transformation, the green transition, then you need areas where renewable energy is produced to supply you with that energy so that you can ultimately use it in a clean and sustainable way. And this is, I'll leave you with this, the pipeline diagram of Turkey. As you can see, crisscrossed across the country, we have natural gas pipelines everywhere, and they're coming from everywhere and going to everywhere. All neighbors through multiple streams owned by Turkey, Italy, etc., are all there listed. And so this is a major opportunity for many interested businesses and how they can invest in this field that's growing, which has no choice to grow, frankly. Energy demand will only continue to increase. If you believe in the AI revolution, then this is where you need to be placing your bets. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for the introductions. Good morning, everyone. It's very exciting to be here. And welcome to our panel on the energy regional map. As you the introduction, I'm Onur Candar. I'm a partner at Bain & Company. I'm managing our office here in Istanbul and in Baku. It's very clear that our generation of leaders across both public and the private sectors are facing three critical issues that will shape the future for the many decades to come. And first of all, the rise of AI and automation and the increased pace of innovation. Second one, the new order or the globalization's changing dynamics. And the third one is sustainability of our planet. In the midst of these three, actually the energy transition stands out as a very pivotal topic and intersecting all three of the issues. It's a dual challenge in itself. On one side, energy is essential for human well-being, prosperity, and economic improvement, supporting billions of people on a daily and momently basis. Yet, on the other hand, the same energy production, largely dependent on the fossil fuels, is one of the primary drivers of climate change through carbon emissions. To navigate this dual challenge, we need to find a balance. We need to ensure energy security and affordability while drastically reducing carbon intensity. We must also harness the transformative power of new technologies, particularly AI and automation, to optimize energy systems and innovate faster. This is a problem at global scale, and addressing it requires us, all the leaders, to balance competing priorities and collaborate even more. We must also harness the it's not just about reducing emissions, what we are going to see. It's about ensuring the billions who rely on affordable energy today, making sure that they are not left behind, and we transition to a sustainable future altogether. That's why today we are very fortunate to have a group of esteemed panelists, each with their own unique insights and expertise to help us explore how we can meet this challenge head-on. In our discussions today, I encourage all of us to think about how we can leverage the tools and strategies that are available today to meet us this dual challenge altogether. So I would like to invite our panelists on the stage, and I would like to take a brief moment to introduce them. We have Ambassador Mattew-Bryza, the former United States Ambassador to Azerbaijan and Senior Advisor at Straife. We have Bakhtiyar Aslanbayli, Vice President at BP, responsible for Caspian region. Elchin İbadov, CEO of SOCAR Türkiye. And we have Teodora Georgieva, Executive Officer and Board Member at ICGB AD, leading gas interconnector Greece-Bulgaria project. Welcome all.
Thanks. Thanks very much.
So I'll jump in. This is a heavy topic, and we had several chats beforehand, and in preparation for this, we have a lot of great ideas and great provocative discussions we are going to have today. And I'll ask my first question to the ambassador. With your experience in Greater Caspian region and Turkey, how are countries balanced? How do you see the countries are balancing the energy supply security and affordability? What type of geopolitical factors and cooperation efforts are shaping the roles in the regional energy markets?
Yeah, thanks. Very thoughtful question, as broad as can be, so thanks for the maneuver room. First, maybe start with what is the definition of energy security? And you were talking about it, Onur. I mean, it's security of supply, so getting enough energy when you need it, at affordable prices, with decreasing greenhouse gas emissions, yeah? And so if we take that as a definition, we want to talk about the region and geopolitics and affordability, I think Turkey is a great place to start, obviously, not only because we're here, but because Turkey is really charging ahead in the energy transition. As Taha was saying, it's already derives 60% of its electricity from primary fuels that are renewable, meaning hydro, wind, solar. It's got, I think, the fifth largest installed capacity of renewable energy in Europe and 11th largest in the world, which is amazing. That's according to Energy Minister Bayraktar. I see my dear friend Bakhtiyar Aslan from the Atlantic Council. He told us that 10 days ago at a conference. So Turkey is moving ahead. That electricity investment is happening because of careful policies, subsidies earlier, feed-in tariffs, et cetera. But now economics are driving investments in new electricity generation. And around the world, it's renewable power generation, especially wind and onshore, that is the most cost-effective of any new generation capacity. So affordability is coming from the market. But then there's a geopolitical problem, which is the raw materials, the critical raw materials. They're dominated in many cases by one supplier. So for rare earths, back in 1987, Deng Xiaoping said, the Middle East has oil, China has rare earths. 1987. And for all of these decades, China has been investing heavily in rare earth production. So China now produces like 80% of the world's rare earths and processes 70% and processes 80%. Lithium and cobalt are really important as well for the technologies, for the batteries, for the wind turbines. And once again, China dominates, not in the mining, but in the processing. So 70% of the world's cobalt is processed physically in China, and 60% of lithium. 60% in the whole world is processed in China. So that's a geopolitical vulnerability in terms of the energy transition. But let's go back maybe to before the energy transition and for a moment talk about natural gas. You know, the world has gone through a few stages of primary energy dominance. So in the beginning, wood, right, was a primary energy source. Then with the Industrial Revolution, coal in the late 18th century, 19th century. Then in the 20th century, oil. In the late 20th century, we started to see natural gas. And in the 21st century, so far, natural gas has really been a crucial primary source of energy, both in terms of affordability, well, not both, three things, energy density, and also it's a lot cleaner than coal. So sticking with Turkey for a moment, I recall my first visit to Ankara in like I don't know what the hell it was, 1997. The air was filthy. You could smell the lignite. It smelled like East Berlin in the 70s and 80s. And I mean, you couldn't see in the middle of the day. And there were power outages, right? You remember, there were shortages of electricity, blackouts. Since Turkey has switched to using much more natural gas and renewables, we no longer have dirty air in Ankara. It's clean, lovely. And there's another example that shows why it's important to keep on working with natural gas as a transition fuel. And it is, by the way, according to the EU's taxonomy of energy supplies. Think back to the Kyoto Protocol back in whatever it was, 1992. Germany had been a great champion of renewable energy technologies in the 70s and 80s and enthusiastically embraced the Kyoto Protocol, which called for reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. The US participated at Kyoto, but never ratified it, never committed to the commitments. So what happened? Well, in the mid-2000s, especially after 2008, the United States deployed horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing or fracking to unlock vast new quantities of natural gas inside the United States. What did that do? That led to a decrease in coal prices in the US. Coal had been a primary fuel for power generation. So coal was cheap. US exported its coal. Who bought it? Germany bought a lot of it. So because the US switched from coal to natural gas as a primary energy source, the US met its Kyoto Protocol targets without trying. Germany, which tried so hard, missed Kyoto Protocol targets, fully committed because it was burning excess American coal. So if you mess with the market too much, weird things can happen. Last point on geopolitics. Russia has not wanted to see the success of the so-called Southern Corridor. That's no surprise. I recall in 2000, a then Russian deputy minister of foreign affairs said to me, our goal is to maintain our monopoly power and kill this new set of pipelines from Azerbaijan. Fast forward 6 years, another deputy foreign minister said to me, you're strong. We know inside we're not strong in Russia. So when we have an advantage on anything, we are going to fight like crazy. And we know we have a geostrategic advantage on natural gas. So we are going to use our monopoly leverage as much as we can to benefit Russia. The Southern Corridor is now delivering 10 BCM, now 12 BCM of Azerbaijani gas. 12.3 into the EU via this Southern Gas Corridor, the South Caucasus Gas Pipeline, TANAP, and the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline. That's good, but it's committed with the EU to double those volumes by 2027, in a little over 2 years. I don't see how that can possibly happen because the EU is sending signals that it's not going to keep purchasing natural gas into the distant future, so it's very difficult, you'll tell us, to fund the upstream investments, to get the financing. So there's not going to be a doubling of Azerbaijani gas production by 2027, I fear. You need the same sort of offtake guarantees to finance the expansion of the pipeline infrastructure as well. So what I think we're going to see happening is what's happening now. Southeast Europe is flooded with Russian gas right now. Yes, there have been agreements between Turkey, Bulgaria, with US support to allow LNG to be offloaded in Turkey and then transported to Bulgaria. But the reality is that natural gas, LNG, is being undercut in terms of price by Russian piped gas. Brutal reality, it's an inconvenient truth. And my last comment is, I think the way we get away from this situation is opening up more investment upstream to private investors, but also opening access to the gas transit infrastructure to private companies rather than state-owned companies within which those Russian ambitions to continue dominating gas transport can thrive. Thank you.
Great. I tried to get some of the points on paper, but it's really, the discussion around renewables being driven by policy shifting to actually economics now, driving the energy transition, it's becoming much more affordable each and every day.
Thank you.
But then the vulnerability around where the raw materials are found is still a question to solve. Although it has changed, the geographics has changed, it is still not in a favorable condition for maybe our zone still. And then the solution to all of the different geopolitical problems that we are going to have is actually not all of them, but in order to increase the investments both in the upstream side, but also making sure that we have more private participation in the energy systems that we are.
Impressive.
Yeah,
Thank you.
To do good summary.
Need to hire Bain.
Then actually, let's switch to the private sector then, and talk about how we can actually, how we see from the eyes of the private sector. Of course, Bakhtiyar Bey, I'm going to ask this question to you. Azerbaijan plays a key role in the regional energy security, especially through major pipelines like Southern Gas Corridor and such. How do BP's operations in Azerbaijan contribute to securing supply for Europe and beyond? And what are your expectations for the future energy landscape in the Caspian region?
Sure, thank you very much. Before I start, I also would like to join the colleagues to express my condolences about the terrorist attack. We actually were together with my colleagues on our way to airport and we heard about the sad news about the terrorist attack. Başımız sağ olsun. And our thoughts and prayers are with those who injured, wishing them soonest recovery. On the topic, obviously, and when we talk about the energy corridor from connecting Caspian and the rest of the world, we probably, as Ambassador Mattew-Bryza just mentioned about Southern Gas Corridor, but it actually started with BTC, Bakhtiyar pipeline, we're bringing the oil. And again, when we talk about the pipelines and energy corridors, obviously, we're mainly talking about the gas corridors, but there's still also the quite significant export of the oil resources. And this is the BTC pipeline was the first ever pipeline that connected Caspian with the Mediterranean, that connected Caspian with the world market. And that was actually the very first regional cooperation project, which proved the case that the further projects are also possible, connecting Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey with a connectivity system with energy corridor. And then we had the South Caucasus pipeline bringing Azerbaijani gas through Azerbaijan, Georgia to the Georgia-Turkish border, and then to Erzurum by using the Potash pipeline system. And then we had obviously the Southern Gas Corridor that we just talked about. Again, just continuing what Matt just talked about, the Southern Gas Corridor. Southern Gas Corridor is actually probably the biggest energy project so far, together with Shah Deniz 2, second stage development and Southern Gas Corridor pipeline system, with 33 billion investment by Azerbaijan and the partners, private sector partners in the project. And again, it consists of the upstream developments in the Caspian, then 3 back-to-back pipelines through Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and then to Europe, Greece, Albania, Italy, South Caucasus pipeline, TANAP pipeline, TAP pipeline. I mean, huge connectivity. And again, that project, that 33 billion investment project, was possible because of advance commitment by the buyers to buy the gas in advance. Whatever we are producing now at Shah Deniz 2, and whatever we're transiting to the Europe, was already sold back in 2013 to 11 companies in Europe for 25 years. That long-term commitment made possible long-term huge investment by private sector companies and the state of Azerbaijan to invest into that infrastructure that would bring Azerbaijani natural gas resources to contribute to the Europe's energy security. Otherwise, that's actually how the upstream business is working. Without that long-term commitment in advance, neither private sector nor the states would make that investment. And again, when we talk about the importance of the Southern Gas Corridor, originally it was built to deliver 10 billion cubic meter per year, 10 BCMA, which we now reached out to the 12.3 BCMA. And obviously, when we talk about the importance of the Southern Gas Corridor, it's not just about to bring those 10 or 12 BCMAs. The importance of the system is actually connectivity. It's actually putting on the place, putting on a map, infrastructure that is able to bring gas resources from east to west, and not necessarily from the Caspian sector of Azerbaijan. It actually can be expandable. And the way the TANAP and TAP pipelines were designed originally, they could be expandable. The engineering design made in a way that both pipelines, TANAP could be expanded from 16 BCMA throughput capacity to 32, and TAP could be expandable from 10 BCMA capacity to 20 BCMA capacity, right? So the whole idea of the Southern Gas Corridor was not to serve to deliver those 10 BCMAs, but also to serve to further expansion and bringing further resources, further volumes of the Caspian gas, or maybe Turkmen gas, or maybe other sources to the European market. And now, Ambassador Bryza mentioned about the MOU signed between European Commission and Azerbaijan, kind of expressing the intention to double 10 BCMA to 20 BCMA until 2027. Now, to make it possible, what we need to have? We need to have resources, first of all. We need to have infrastructure to bring that resources. And we need to have a political will. To have resources. At the moment, as I said, we're already exporting 12.3. If you look back to the Caspian Sea, we're already producing Shah Deniz gas, Shah Deniz 2 gas. We're at the peak, at the plateau of our production. And with the new Shah Deniz compression project, we can stay at the plateau somewhere probably till 30, 31, depending how the compression project will continue. Then recently, September 20th, we signed another agreement with the government of Azerbaijan, with SOCAR, to allow us to go to the deep gas under the current ACG project. We already started the developments, and we're expecting the first gas next year, additional sources. Then we talk about the other projects, such as the Absheron project operated by colleagues in Total Energy together with the government. Then we talk about the Ümit Babek field operated by colleagues in SOCAR. Then we talk about the other fields, like we do have the Shafak Asiman operated on BP, which is we have the completed exploration. We got the data. We're at the moment at the interpretation of that data. Then we talk about the renewable energy sector, that the renewable energy will contribute to the electricity production of Azerbaijan, which will then unlock certain amount of the gas resources which would be available to export to Europe. Then we talk about the transit from Turkmenistan that will connecting, and we had that experience in the prior years, that will, Turkmen gas will be used for the domestic purpose in Azerbaijan. Excess of Azerbaijani gas could go to Europe. Then we talk about the possibility of bringing Turkmen gas directly for the transit purposes. I'm not talking about Trans-Caspian pipeline at this point. I'm a more bit realistic person. We're talking about some interconnection there. So resources are there. The question is not about where to find that additional 10 BCM of gas for the coming future. Resources are there. Then the second condition, to have an infrastructure to deliver those resources. I just mentioned South Caucasus pipeline, TANAP-TAP, and then the last two pipelines already designed in a way that the throughput capacity could be doubled, but that's there. Then the other thing is the political will, or if I put other ways, or for realization of any project, we need to have a technical condition, financial condition, political condition. Technically, it's possible. Resources are there. Infrastructure is there. Financially, it makes sense. There is a feasibility study. Of course, it makes sense. There's a coming to the third element of the political will. And when we talk about the political will, it's not about any countries trying not to upset lovely neighbor in the north or someone else. It's now actually about the buyers. It's not actually about the consumers. If my buyer is not ready to take a commitment that they will buy the gas for more than 5 years these days, how you would expect an upstream company, private sector company, or state of Azerbaijan to invest into the development further gas resources? It's not going to happen. And it's not possible to happen anywhere else in the world, in the gas business, upstream business. However, again, by staying optimistic, actually, there are certain developments in that respect, and there is still, like the production machine is there. We, in Azerbaijan, again, those projects that we are operating, the project and our colleagues in SOCAR and other colleagues in Total Energy and other local companies are operating, we're still on our kind of the pace to continue that production. Obviously, there are a number of the clients, buyers, and then one of them is always Turkey is always willing to get the additional resources all the time, and then we'll see. And probably most of you travel here by Turkish Airlines, and there's an ad in Turkish Airlines, basically, then the group of the actors getting together to record the video and ad, and looking for somewhere that had mountains, snow, sea, and then somewhere we have the historical places, somewhere we get the good cuisine, and suggesting different areas. And one of the actors with incredible hidden Hollywood smile, or even more incredible American accent, and the base says, actually, Turkey has it all. If we talk about the energy hub, what do you need for energy hub? You need actually a proximity to the resources in the neighboring areas. You need the existing infrastructure, and you need actually have a proximity to the market to connect the source country and the market. And Turkey has it all. Probably I'll tell you with less than incredible American accent this time, but it is the reality. So this is the possibility for the further development of the Turkey into the even bigger scale of energy hub. And always the Caspian resources in Azerbaijan, that will be very helpful to build up on that energy connectivity.
Great. So what I'm understanding is we actually have almost all the means if you want to really create or increase the participation in the Caspian gas in the European markets. The technology is there, financials is there, we can build it very fast, but it's the political win and the commitment to actually buy the gas that is preventing us from making that shift. With that regard, I would actually like to turn to Elchin Bey and talk about this. This, of course, might be a solution for some of our shorter-term problems, what Bakhtiyar was mentioning. But in the longer term, we also have a daunting mission of decarbonizing our energy systems as well. As SOCAR, you are involved both in the traditional oil and gas sectors and the renewable sector at the same time. What is your view on the future of energy, and how you see the companies balancing activities in Azerbaijan, Turkey, and beyond with this regard?
Thank you. Başımız sağ olsun, Allah şehitlerimize rahmet eylesin. Before moving to your answer, I would like to officially validate what Mr. Arvas said. As a young boy who was born and grew up in Soviet Union, this was exactly what had been happening. So we were putting the ovens open because natural gas was so cheap. Except for one item, we were not shutting it off during the evening. No, we were keeping it open till the morning, perhaps because the matches were more expensive in Azerbaijan than in the rest of Soviet Union. So coming back to your questions, like many other oil and gas companies today, SOCAR is actually at a pivotal juncture. Yeah? So for SOCAR, the question boils down to the following. How do you preserve your existence, your strong presence in oil and gas market, but simultaneously also serve to the broader passions, global passions of decarbonizing the world and serving to the climate initiatives. So as S in SOCAR stands for state, so it's not just a corporate strategy. So this shift from a traditional oil and gas company to a comprehensive energy company is not just a corporate strategy. So it reflects Azerbaijan's broader country vision in that respect. We also need to remember that this sustainability transformation should be viewed together with other two types of transformation that we are facing nowadays, the social transformation and the digital transformation. So it's a triplet transformation journey that we as oil and gas companies are going through. If we come to specific examples, so let's start with refined products first. According to International Energy Agency, in 2020, 1 out of every 10 cars was an electrical car, newly produced cars. Today, it's 1 out of 5. In 2030, it's expected to be 1 out of 2. But the problem is, there are two problems with that. First, the battery, the existence of battery is important, but the size of it is also important. Today, the majority of the consumption in diesel and gasoline, it's not in small sedan type of cars. It's on trains, it's on ships, it's on big lorries. And of course, technology will be there someday, and I know there are many initiatives that are developing such batteries to also run such big vehicles. But today, we don't have them. Yeah, we don't have them at large scale. And the second is, are the cities ready for that? Yeah. Can you imagine city of Istanbul or any other megapole converting to 100% electrical cars today? Or in any time in next 10 years? Yeah, it's a very difficult task. I'm sometimes asking some construction companies that they're building new buildings, we call in Turkiye site, new cities. And I'm asking whether those are compatible with electrical car usage for 100% of the cars that will be in that building, and the answer is an unfortunate no. So the cities need to get ready, the battery technology needs to get ready. What I'm explaining this for is there is still some time for oil and gas products to be there, to exist, before we fully replace it with electrical cars. In petrochemicals, the story is even, it's even a longer story. Whatever we can touch in this conference room, except for live object, contains petrochemicals. Yeah. And to replace petrochemicals, to replace refined products, there is sustainable aviation fuel, there is electrical vehicles, but to replace petrochemical products, today, we don't have a lot of opportunities. The technology has not developed them yet. Even the solar panels, the electrical vehicles, the batteries of electrical vehicles, the blades of wind farms, they are there to produce sustainable energy, renewable energy. Even they are made of petrochemicals. Therefore, we believe that petrochemical production will continue at least for a foreseeable future. So coming back to SOCAR's vision is that we need to continue address the current demand for oil and gas products, including petrochemicals, while we are also transforming into sustainable products. And we need to see oil and gas products not as an enemy, but as an enabler for such transformation. Because otherwise, how are you going to finance such transformation if you do not keep continue producing oil and gas products to generate revenues and use those revenues to finance sustainable energy transformation? So that's SOCAR's vision in general. And particularly in petrochemical, we see a longer journey rather than just 5 years long journey for petrochemicals. So I will not bore you with explaining different sustainable transformation projects that SOCAR is undergoing here in Turkey. As you can very easily guess, a company who is the largest foreign direct investor here and has invested $18.6 billion so far in the last 15 years. Of course, we are doing a lot of projects. We are spending a lot of money to convert our products into more sustainable products and to achieve energy efficiency. But I will explain one thing that is more important than that from SOCAR's perspective. And it's not about hydrocarbons. We have a CFO, I like one of his sayings. He says, if you can solve a problem with money, it's not a problem, it's an expense. So there are really some items in this journey that you cannot solve with money, or money would not be sufficient to solve that problem. And again, it's not about hydrocarbons, it's about brain. We are having huge difficulty in the region to retain key talents. That is becoming a real business risk and a real business problem. And in order to tackle that, SOCAR is doing two things, basically. One thing is to ensure that our remuneration system, feedback system, award system is designed for new generation. For us, for people who are like at my age or above, it was sufficient for our boss to come at the end of the year and tell us, you have not done such a terrible job this year. That was sufficient for me to be motivated and continue for 1 year, for another year. But for new generation, it's not sufficient. They want frequent feedback. And you know why? Because of the video games. In video games, they get frequent awards and remunerations. And they expect the same from the life, from job. And first thing we did, we converted our remuneration system and award system to be able to give frequent awards and feedbacks. How do we do that? Very easily, there is an application. After a meeting, you can go type the name of the employee, and then there are, default wordings. Good job. It was a great presentation. Things like that. Or you can put in your own words. You click on it, he or she sees it immediately on his or her screen. And then if he or she gets 5 of them, there is a shield next to his or her picture in the chat system, in Teams system, etc. So we need to think about gamification of reward system in order to retain those people, keep them motivated. The second thing is the thing called FOMO and FOBO, fear of missing out and fear of being obsolete. Right now, people leave organizations because they have these two types of fear. Something is going on there, there's digital transformation, social transformation, sustainability transformation. Everyone else is learning new things, but I am feeling I'm missing out, or I am becoming obsolete, out of dated. In order for them not to feel that, we created a system called Q concept. So I'll explain in 2 minutes and I'll finish. The Q concept is like 30 years ago, for energy companies like ours, IQ, intelligence quotient, was sufficient for an employee to work in a company like us, plus some hard work. Today, we feel that people want to be developed in a number of areas. Emotional quotient, EQ, emotional intelligence. SQ, social quotient, to reflect on social changes, cultural differences, because now we are in a more international workforce arena. Adverse quotient, so when there is an adverse event, a negative event, have to apply stoicism principles and still keep running. So those muscles. Then digital quotient, have to be digitally aptitude. And finally, PQ, possibility quotient, have to see opportunities around and then convert that opportunities into innovative solutions using AI, for example. So we have created a continuing professional development, program that taps every one of these Qs. And if you, in your programs, tap every one of these Qs, people do not feel being obsolete or they don't feel being missing out, and therefore they continue and within the organization in a motivated way. So this is the second thing that we are doing. Sorry that I didn't go into technical details, but the philosophy here, I think, is important for energy companies right now to retain the keep talents.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for that one. It's actually, it's great to hear that it's not only a sustainability transformation that we are going through, but you are also considering the social and technology aspects in it, and none of them can be done alone. And the biggest risk is actually how do we keep and preserve the best talent that we have in this region, so that they can continue solving the toughest problems that we have or operate the more complex technologies that we are going to have going forward. Great perspectives. Thank you very much. And my question is this time to Teodora. We are moving a little bit towards West, and you're, of course, having the most living in the EU policies and the EU energy policies. How do you see the last couple of years changes in the policies and the most ambitious targets coming into the play? How is it affecting the cross-border energy systems and the projects like the ones you are running in Greece, Bulgaria? How do these regulations are influencing the Bulgaria's energy market and the positioning within the European Union?
So thank you very much. Thank you very much for AmChams for the invitation to really being honored also in this esteemed panel. So before answering to your questions, I would like to, because it's inevitable since the Southern Gas Corridor has been mentioned so much time, I would like to say that IGB being connected with EAP, Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, we are part of the Southern Gas Corridor, and let's say this make a huge difference. We had this, years really very good cooperation. It is crucial for energy security and energy independence, and it plays an immediate role for our country because it was a reliable partner, like very much Azeri and BP being behind AGS as a company. So they are really professionals and very good partners, which is very rare, especially connected with the gas in these days. And what has happened is that in 2022, when IGB started functioning, we are receiving 1 BCM out of 3 BCM in the infrastructure that ICGB is responsible, and it plays a huge role both for energy security and affordability to Bulgaria, and not only to Bulgaria. Then 2 months later, there was, let's say, the pipeline has been already utilized at 90% of the pipeline, which is 3 BCM, comparable to the market of Bulgaria, mainly because of transmission to countries where heating was jeopardized, like Moldova, Ukraine. So it plays a huge role, and I would like to say that it's, I mean, we are seeing how much make a difference if the infrastructure exists and if there are reliable partners behind. Then coming back to European Union, so if I should make some let's say, some background, what are the lessons learned from European Union. So European Union, one of the key words was dependency on resources, which plays a huge role and which has escalated with the invasion of Russia towards Ukraine. So in 2022, it has been used as gas has been used as a geopolitical weapon, and it plays, let's say, a huge difficulties. But what would have been made better is, let's say, less dependence. And there was a kind of crisis management also from European Union. There are several actions that they have done, like key performance indicators for the storages for the countries, which was well managed and done quickly, like common platform, but also, unfortunately, boosting the industrialization in order to, let's say, to balance both supply and demand, which I would not say that it was quite positive, because it's, I mean, long term, it plays not so good role. Why? Because I think that gas generally is a unique bridge towards decarbonization, let's say together with the renewables, but it is really unique given that it is one of the most important balancing one. And also, let's say, coming back to the crisis, we saw that it is possible LNG, let's say, FSRUs to be built in Europe for a couple of months, like in Germany. So it plays a role, it plays a difference. And now we may say that Europe is already supplying 42% LNG, which was, let's say, a huge step forward. But on the other hand, we should really somehow think about it's a dynamic environment, and we should be really thinking ahead how to do better. Prices are, let's say, a kind of curbed and much better, but the policies are not so much supporting, let's say, the transformation which is going on. Also, energy security, we are always repeating that it is important and it plays a difference. How Europe is thinking now, given that by the end of this year, Russia intends to let's say, to terminate the contract for transmission towards Ukraine, which inevitably is going to impact countries like Austria, Slovakia, and more. So from this perspective, now European Union is not supporting infrastructures, gas infrastructures, only hydrogen one. So from, let's say, initiatives like vertical gas corridor, where our infrastructure is playing a crucial role, are also not supported. So market now is not in favor of, let's say, we should somehow think about regulation as well, because if we purely follow regulations and doing market tests, binding, non-binding, binding tests, so for example, the market itself has been changed a lot from previous year to this year. Previous year it was really, okay, much more boosting LNG as a supply, but this year also Turkey should be mentioned here. For me, it is definitely a hub, because for example, if we make a kind of comparison, also to what I saw today is that there is a significant percentage of import from Turkey to Bulgaria at the level of 42%, if I properly noticed. So it plays a huge role to the industry, because if we compare to TTF as a European energy hub, so the levels now is 8 to 10 euro per megawatt hours lower in both, let's say, Southeastern Europe or Bulgaria market. So it plays a huge role towards, let's say, impact from Turkey and the flow that is going there. So in such a dynamics, what European Union should, if they would like to support vertical corridor sources from LNG, both LNG from Greece and from Turkey, they should somehow support more infrastructure to be developed, especially if we are talking about expansions. So just to name some figure, by, let's say, they are not new infrastructures. We are talking about some bottlenecks to be overcome during the way among TSOs from operators from Bulgaria, Greece, let's say Romania, Moldova, Ukraine. So they're also part of this corridor. So for 500 million euro, we may, let's say, reach to 5 to 10 BCM increase of supply of gas towards Ukraine, towards Europe. So it's, let's say, relatively not so high amount, but it plays a huge difference. Unfortunately, for the time being, we don't have any solutions, at least from European Union, although we do have some, let's say, coming CESEC meeting in next week in Budapest, where we hope that we are going to bring back the discussions. We are also hoping that our American friends, which were always behind, could help, because we heard that there are some initiatives from USAID that could support, especially vertical gas corridor. But these are difficulties that should be somehow placed and also taken care, because they're crucial for energy security. And by this path towards decarbonization, which is going on, we shouldn't forget energy security. That's something that somehow I think that is a proper message to be given to the policymaker by European Union. So let's, I mean, and what I missed to mention also is that, let's say, this, we are talking about 42% right now LNG in Europe, but the expectation, at least in 2022, was that by 2025, all Europe could somehow replace Russian gas, which hasn't happened. So there are some, let's say, I mean, there are some delays, because everybody knows that USA put some bans on licenses there. So also, this dynamic should have been foreseen, and there are steps to be taken much quicker than before, because we are in a different environment that should, let's say, think ahead, especially given that there are some coming uncertainties also in relation with the election outcome. So, I mean, yes, dynamic situation, yes, more flexibility, and let's say energy security first, in line with the renewable changes.
Great, thank you so much. I think the main message here is that the policies, that our aspirations are there, but the policies right now are not supporting those aspirations, and there's still a way to go in order to make sure that we are moving towards the ambitious goal and also creating the energy security. So I recognize that we very fast run out of time. I'm going to ask one more question to our panelists, and specifically to Elchin Bey and Mr. Ambassador. As we are going to have the COP29 in almost 2 weeks now, what specific outcomes should we expect from the energy sector, particularly with Azerbaijan being at the spotlight? What types of commitments should we expand, either as the further enhancement of COP28 or new priorities that we are going to see going forward? So maybe I can start with Elchin Bey this time first, and then we can wrap up with that.
Certainly, I think this COP29 will be an important event, not only for Azerbaijan, but for the region and globally. But for Azerbaijan, what it would mean, I'll try to explain in very quick 7 bullet points. So first is Azerbaijan's reinforcement of Azerbaijan's commitment to renewables. So Azerbaijan commits that by 2030, it will be 30% renewables. It's a strong commitment, a challenging one, but that reinforcement is going to be important in COP29. The second one is, as you know, State of Azerbaijan prepared offshore wind roadmap together with World Bank and IFC. And so Azerbaijan is Baku is trying to be a hub for offshore wind turbines in the Caspian region. As you might know, Baku literally means windy city. Yeah. Unfortunately, Chicago has stolen that title from Baku. So if Ambassador Bryza, if we can take it back, please, at some point.
My hometown, that's fine.
Baku is a windy city. Caspian region is famous for its wind, so we want to become a hub for that. This third one is a new company was established called SOCAR Green, and that's SOCAR's commitment to carbon capture and green hydrogen projects. So SOCAR is going to invest into this. That will also be showcased in COP29. The fourth is energy security, of course, of region through the natural gas pipeline that Bakhtiyar Bey mentioned. I think the political will is important for it to happen, the commitment from European countries, but I think we also need a severe winter. So Europe hasn't experienced a severe winter since the eruption of war, but with that, I think this commitment will come at once. The fifth item is Caspian Black Sea European Green Energy Corridor. And here the idea is that the energy produced in these wind turbines would be transferred to Europe through a subsea cable under the Black Sea. So that's another important initiative that will be showcased in COP29. Sixth one is regional cooperation with Georgia, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. So right now, Azerbaijan and these three countries are working very closely to generate new projects. Not necessarily in production, but also in trading and other opportunities. And finally, it will be a very important opportunity for Azerbaijan to create employment opportunities in the country and in the region, particularly in Karabakh, in the liberated area of Azerbaijan after 30 years of occupation. So it will be an important opportunity for us to showcase job opportunities for the region. Thank you.
Well, looking forward, very ambitious commitments and ambitious plans. Ambassador.
So maybe broadening the aperture a bit beyond the goals of Azerbaijan for COP29, I think from the UN perspective, but the goals defined by Azerbaijan, right, are climate finance. So the international community, the developed countries are committed to providing $100 billion a year to help lesser developed companies manage the consequences of climate change. We've never come close to that. So climate finance, and we've never come close to meeting the goal, the financing goal. Energy storage, renewables as well are big goals, as Elchin İbadov said, but also peace. Peace is a big theme of COP29. Why is that? Because A, what Elchin İbadov said, Azerbaijan has liberated its territories, the war with Armenia is finished. Hopefully there is a peace treaty around the corner. It seemed like, a year ago, maybe around this time of year, there could be a peace treaty signed between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and President Aliyev invited Prime Minister Pashinyan to participate. They are close. I'm a former mediator of the conflict, so I keep tabs on it. They're close, but it looks like they probably won't get a peace treaty done at COP29 or before, but maybe there'll be some sort of a joint statement that we're really committed to wrapping things up soon. There are a couple of, obviously the final issues in any peace agreement are the most difficult ones to resolve, or they would have been resolved already. If you step back and think about what I just said, I mean, the conflict is just about resolve. This 30-decade-old war is just about finished. And Azerbaijan, as Elchin İbadov said, is rebuilding its territories, the recovered territories. So having been there many times, the recovered territories, there is literally nothing there, or there was nothing there. No roads, no power generation, no sanitation. In many cases, in many towns and villages, no buildings, nothing. So Azerbaijan is undergoing this amazing effort, not only to rebuild, but to rebuild into smart cities and green energy zones. So that fits right into COP29. And it's rebuilding all of the other infrastructure as well, highways, railroads. So this is an opportunity, COP29, the biggest event in the history of independent Azerbaijan, right? I mean, bigger than Eurovision from 2013. The biggest event in Azerbaijan's history. Azerbaijan is atop the world stage all this year, right? Chairing the most important event there is to fight climate change. And so I hope a result of this will be that the world will get a chance to see what Azerbaijan is really like. Azerbaijan is frustrated by, 3 decades of a narrative that Azerbaijan feels is unfair. Turkey faces that as well sometimes. So here's the opportunity for Azerbaijan to show the world it's a winning country. It's rebuilding all of these territories that were totally destroyed into green energy zones. And for this year and next year, because there's a troika system, Azerbaijan will remain atop the world stage, helping to fight climate change. Thank you.
Great. And I'm sure you have a lot more questions to our panelists, but I won't hold you off from your lunch.
Oh no, just one more thing.
Please.
If you're at COP29, come to ADA University on the 14th and 15th of November. Our company, Straife, is co-organizing with ADA University a conference on environmental bridges to peace. So, thank you.
Great. And then with this, we conclude our panel for Energy Regional Map. I thank all of our panelists for sharing your perspectives and experience with us. And I hope, hopefully you'll enjoy your lunch and the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're great. Thank you.